Welcome to the SportsMed Physiotherapy team's Clinic to Cloud letter writer video. Now before we start writing letters on Clinic to Cloud, we do need to set up a couple of templates. Now to access this, we go to the Settings tab, My Settings, we come across to Templates, and we should have the option of adding a template which comes to a blank screen, or you should have a new branding template in brackets clone only, which has the SportsMed watermark. And to access that, we can push the edit button. Once we have our template up, the first thing that we need to do is set our margins. So if we go to Page Layout, Margins, and customize our margins, for our current letterhead, we want the top margin to be 4.24. We want the bottom margin to be 1.98. We want the left margin to be 1.98. And we want the right margin to be 4.8 in portrait and applying to the whole document, and we push OK. Before you start planning your template, it's good to be familiar with the column on the left-hand side of your screen. So this is where information is taken from the Clinic to Cloud database for that particular time and date, and then inputted into your template. So things of interest are time and date, patient, which brings up your patient details, whether it be date of birth, name, surname, address, and also patient clinical. Now what you'll notice here is that we've got patient reason for presentation, patient clinical assessment, patient history discussion, and patient management, which pertain to the 4 boxes in our clinical assessment. The other thing that might be of interest to you is also lab results. Unfortunately, Clinic to Cloud at the moment, its recipient data doesn't download appropriately. So there's a way around it which I'll show you later on. However, if possible, please don't use this section because you'll be disappointed. So as an example, this is my template for a post-operative note that will go back to one of our surgeons. So the key interest here is I've got the current date up the top. Interestingly, I've used the patient history discussion square as my address book, and I'll show you how that happens in a real patient later on in the video. I've got all my patient details here, and importantly, I've got my patient clinical assessment, which is another one of those squares here. So whatever I've put into that square will be downloaded into that section, and I've got my thanks for the referral through and how I sign off at the end. Once you've written your template, then you can either push save or update down the bottom, and your template is then saved and ready to go. Now for an example of how the template can be used efficiently, let's just say I saw a patient today with a left total knee replacement by Dr. Jones. Now I use the plus functions quite a lot in my practice. So if I just push LL, there will be a number of my post-operative protocols, but if I click on knee, I can then delete that section there, and I have my protocol that comes up. Now I might say they've come in, they've gone really well, they're 95 degrees, everything is all pretty similar, they're onto stage 2 exercises, and they're doing really well with their straightening today, so we just want to encourage some range where we've completed our note. Now what I'll do here is I'll copy Dr. Jones, and I'll move that down to my history discussion. Like I mentioned before, I use this as my address book. If I then use that plus function again and start writing orthopedics, I go orthopedic team, and from here I can then go across to the letters and push the little letter creator, and my template, I then address it to the patient, get rid of the CCs because it's a test, and then if I go down to my post-operative template, there it is. So what I need to do here is just tidy things up. So I can delete that little section there. I've got my patient name and their date of birth, their procedure. I can then change that, and then my template hasn't come out perfectly, so I can just tab these across. And because I made this relatively neutral, we can keep it as theirs, or I can change that to his or her and move from there. And then from there I can either sign and print, so I can then put it onto letterhead, or I can just sign it and leave it within the file. Now if I want to sign and print this letter, I can push sign and print, and it will come up with my letter ready to go. Now in terms of Stepney, if I wanted to print that on letterhead, if I go to printer, set printer preferences, and I'm on drawer 1, that's our letterhead. LCF is our plain blank paper. So if I'm on to drawer 1, I can then push OK, and then I'll be able to print our letter out into letterhead and post it off. If I've picked up a mistake in my letter, I can go back to my consult. Now because I'm in my consult, it hasn't come up yet. And if I finish my consult and reload it, it will be there. Otherwise, I can go to letters and I can see the letter that I've written. Now if I unsign that and then I can push edit, I can do any of the adjustments that I need. Now down the bottom you'll notice that I can only sign it and not print it. And so to print it, I need to go to File, Print, and then copy as before. Whereas if I just want to save it, and then after I've done that, I can then sign it to save it. If at any stage I'm writing a letter but haven't completed it yet and don't want to save it to the file, I can push Park. Now if I push Park, if I go into my main menu and then come across to the letters section, depending on how many letters have been written, I should be able to see my letter through the front as a draft, and that will give me quick access to it to edit it and then adjust it later on if I need to.